Hi, this is Ellen Heath, and I've had a couple of people ask me how I mount my watercolor pictures on a 6x6 board, so that's what I'm going to show you in this video. So you can wrap any watercolor painting around a board, and if you trim off the back, you just have it plain, or you can wrap it around the back also, which I rather like. Or if your picture isn't large enough to wrap all the way around the back, you can trim it right on the front edge and either paint the edge, or in this case I put grosgrain ribbon. Okay, now my picture is ready to put on the 6x6 board. Only it's hard to know where to glue it on. I have a 6x6 square cut out of tag board, and I can put it on my picture and slide it around until I have exactly the spot I want. Then I take a little straight pin and I put it right in each corner. And when I turn this over, it'll make it easier to see if you just put a little circle around your little pinprick. Now for the gluing, I just get my brush damp and rub it in here. That seems to make it easier to spread out on my board. I go from the middle to the outside. Some people use a roller, but I just use this brush. And then I make sure the middle is all nicely glued. And then I go over it one more time just to make sure it's very smooth. Then you just find your 4 little corners on your paper and center this exactly. Now I usually flip it over, press it to the edges to make sure it's got glue all over the back. Then I put some encyclopedias on top of that and let it sit overnight. Okay, this is my painting the next day, glued onto the board. And I'm showing you this so you can see all the little lines I drew on here of where I'm going to cut. However, I don't usually draw lines on mine anymore. I just cut it. So this is just for your information. This is about 1.5 inches. This is so it can wrap around the board after it's cut. Piece of mat board to cut on. And my handy dandy metal T-square. So I'm cutting right on this line right here. My ruler is exactly 1.5 inches wide, so I can just butt it up against the board and cut off all 4 edges. Now I've made it so the sides will wrap around, but the top and the bottom will have an extra little flap. You can see that here. So I'm going to cut straight out here and here for the sides, because the sides will wrap. My ruler butts right up against the edge, and I just cut straight out from the corners for the sides. You can see that this side will just fold right up here. Okay, I'm leaving about 1/2 inch for the tab. Now notice I'm not cutting all the way across, I'm just cutting the tab apart. And those will drop right off of there. And I have a little tab piece. That's the side. This is the top and the bottom with the tab. And now I just need to cut the tabs on these 2 sides. Now, as with any kind of a tab, you want to taper the corners a little bit. So I'll do that, and then I will show you what I did. Just coming right out from the corners. There we have the tabs. So everything is cut on this. I have the 2 side pieces. I have the top and the bottom with tabs. Okay, now I need to score all the edges that will be folding. I don't want to score them too deeply because I don't want to cut through my paper, which is a problem. I'm using an ice pick. You could use any sort of tool that's a bit pointed at the end. It needs to be pretty pointed, but not so pointed you're cutting right through the paper. So first I'm going to score around the wood, just because that's easiest. So I'm just going lightly twice. And then you don't want to just fold it fast. You want to gently bend it so it doesn't tear on the edges. See how that's working? Working good. Okay. And I'll gently fold the other side. Okay, now the other place that's going to fold is the little tabs. I like to score those too. So I'm again just doing it twice. So I'm just going to show you how to glue two sides at a time. Since the tabs are going underneath, this will have to be further. For this step, I'm using 2 clamps. You can get these down at any hardware store. These slide open. 2 pieces of wood to hold the edges inside the clamp. So again, I'm going to glue the 2 sides that do have tabs. I almost did it backwards. Glue the 2 sides with the tabs, because on the next step you'll glue the tab in underneath. I'm going to put a little glue on the wood. That should hold it just fine. And you don't want to slop it all the way to the edge. So I'm gluing the 2 sides that have tabs first. And then I kind of press them just to make sure the glue gets over onto the paper evenly. Okay, now in order to clamp this, I want to protect my artwork. I'm just going to put a paper towel on it. Okay, my 2 little pieces of wood go outside the paper towel, so my artwork is protected. Now I just need 2 clamps, so I'm going to put that outside the wood. And now I'm going to press down here just to make sure everything's lined up. I don't have my paper towel in the glue. Check for that every time. Okay, and then I'm going to tighten my clamps one more time. Before we glue the other 2 ends, we need to trim these corners again. This corner will need to be cut here at a 45-degree angle. Let me draw that in. At a 45-degree angle. And then on this side also at a 45-degree angle. It's not perfect. You can always fix it a bit later. Okay, so we need to trim those 2 corners. And then also the other side, we need to trim these 2 corners. So when we fold these around the back, they won't overlap. Okay, now on the sides, I'm going to fold this up and draw a line along the edge to show me where that's going to come to. Okay, so that way I can also cut this at a 45-degree angle and this at a 45-degree angle. This will fold over here, go underneath, and then in the end these 2 will fold over, and hopefully they won't overlap. Okay, and we do that on all the corners here. So those are ready to fold in. All 1, 2, 3, 4. The tabs are all ready to fold in. Tiny bit of water, some Yes glue. We'll spread that on the wood. I'm going to put a tiny bit on the edge to go over the flap. I don't want very much because I don't want it to squirt out and get on the outside of my picture. Okay, now I'm down at the other end. I'm going to put the glue on the wood, smoothing it out all the way to the edge, and then put a tiny bit on the ends, not very much. We just want it to catch the top of the flap. We don't want it to squirt out. Okay, that's that. We fold our tabs in. Again, press it a few times. Make sure you don't have glue on your fingers. And I'm going to get my paper towel again to protect my artwork. My 2 pieces of wood. Like I said, you could have done all 4 of these sides at once, but I'd recommend the first time just do 2 of them. And we're going to clamp this. With 2 clamps. Now I like to press this down, make sure it's all straight. There's no paper towel in the glue. And there is some right here, see that? Okay, so I've got my 2 clamps nice and straight, nice and tight, and we can leave that until tomorrow. This little clip is to show you that it is possible to do all 4 sides at once. I took the clamps and the paper towels off, and now we're ready to fold these edges down and glue them. But first of all, I want to score along the wood here, just 2 light times on each one, so they'll fold more easily. Well, first I'm going to gently fold these in. I want to check and make sure these corners don't overlap. So now I can put a little bit of glue on the paper edge. I don't put it on the wood because I would overlap it too much onto the part where I don't need it. Okay, and the last edge. I don't want too much glue on the outside. Okay, so I'm just pressing these down again just to make sure that the glue gets on the paper and the wood. It just shoots mini staples. So I'll put one of those in each corner just to help me get started. So that holds it a little bit. And then we'll put a stack of art books or encyclopedias on there and let it sit overnight. Ooh, it's nice and tight all the way around from the book sitting on it overnight. Okay, now my picture has been signed. Just pick a dark or medium color. You don't want it too dark because then it'll look like little blobs on your paper. And you're just going to, I'm using a darker green color. I think you can see that there. And if you just barely tap it on these little white edges here, don't make a line, but just tap it here and there. And if you do go over a little bit onto your picture, okay, if you do go a little bit over onto your picture, just do what you would always do and just soften the edge onto your picture and it'll just disappear. These little edges I like to do too, so they're a little harder to catch, but I just get a little paint on my brush and I put a little paint right on that edge and the corners. That fold had some white on it too, so, and they just disappear. Anyway, that's how I fix mine up. And you can even do the back edges if you want to along here. Okay, we're ready to lightly spray the surface of this to seal it. I'll take it outside to do that. And I use 1 coat of the gloss non-yellowing spray and then 2 coats of the matte non-yellowing clear spray. And then we're ready to hang it on the wall. Hope you enjoyed my little video. Have fun painting.